district.
Note that we are recording this and we will post this on our website after our second presentation. So we're having an encore presentation on Tuesday. All right. So just to go over some meeting norms before we get started, we have a lot of information to give you. Our presentation will take approximately 20 to 30 minutes. A lot of your questions will be answered within the presentation. So if you hold your questions till the end, we will take all the time we need to answer every single question. Please know that. So if you can just type those questions in the Q&A section, that will help. And once again, this meeting will be recorded.
So tonight we'll talk about what dual credit actually is. We will review the program. So tonight we're covering the full-time dual credit program. We'll talk about what qualifications students need to have to apply for the program. And then we'll answer some commonly asked questions and then what you need to do next if you are interested and want to apply for the program.
All right, so we always start with what is dual credit. Dual credit, just like the two words say, is a term that we give to courses where high school students earn both high school and college credits simultaneously, so at the same time. Full-time dual credit is the opportunity for our juniors and seniors to take all their classes at Elgin Community College. All the full-time dual credit classes are taught at ECC by ECC instructors using their syllabus and all their materials. And all the credits that you earn, or most of the credits you earn from ECC are transferable.
So some of the benefits of dual credit. Obviously, you're earning college credit while you're still in high school. You're saving money on completing college. We all know college can be very expensive. So if you're earning dual credit along the way, we take care of the cost of that. So you're saving yourself some money in the long run. You get to gain early college experience, but you still have a lot of support from your high school, from the school district, as well as ECC. And then you can obtain that college credential earlier. So meaning that you can receive your associate's degree earlier than some of your peers.
So this is our 6th year of doing dual credit for 1 year and our 2nd year of doing dual credit for 2 years. And we always like to talk through what some of the feedback is we get from our students in the program. And so we have some of their quotes here. They like that flexibility, the sense of independence, the challenge, figuring out what they want to do, the understanding of what college is and getting a head start on college, and experiencing the pressures of college while still being in high school and still having those supports. So those are here are the exact quotes.
So, you know, with everything, not everything is perfect. So we do realize that along the way, there's some challenges that our students tend to face. So, you know, feeling a disconnect from their home high school, like we said before, students are at ECC, they take all their classes there. So they're only at their home high school for extracurricular activities, really managing your own time. So there's a lot more freedom with the college schedule. And so having to figure out how to allocate your time so that you're able to get all your work done and, you know, still have fun and maybe enjoy some of those sports or other things that you're involved in. You know, I would say time management is really one of the largest challenges that students face along the way. And then just a different way of socializing. You know, in a high school, you're in classes with your friends, you have lunch with your friends. At ECC, you might not have classes with people you know yet. Maybe you're making new friends. You don't necessarily have lunch together. So it's just a different way of looking at how you're going to socialize with others.
So in our full-time dual credit program, as we've mentioned a few times, our students are enrolled full-time at ECC and take all their courses at ECC. Something to emphasize is that no classes are taken at their home high school. So students do not go to their high school at all during the school day. Anywhere from 4 to 5 classes, anywhere from 12 to 16 hours per semester. Students are considered both ECC and U46 students. Students have a transcript from both Elgin Community College and U46, and they receive weighted credit on their U46 transcript. So when they finish their semester at ECC, those grades are transferred to the U46 transcript and they get that weighted credit. And then students are going to meet with that lead counselor, who is Ms. Charche, throughout the school, throughout their entire enrollment in the program.
So we offer dual credit for both our rising senior students, our students who will be seniors next year, and our students who will be juniors next year. So for those of you who are going to be seniors next year, that would be our one-year program. We admit 25 students in the program who will be seniors. You can earn up 24 credits or above. So like Ms. Chapman said, you take a minimum of 12 credit hours per semester. You could easily earn up to 35 credits even. So you would meet with your the ECC advisor, and she helps you pick out your classes, and she makes sure that our U46 high school graduation requirements are included in those classes. So our students are taking PE with ECC. Typically for seniors, you're going to see English, econ, and government. Other courses that might still be required for that student. These classes are really specifically chosen out of the plan for the Associate's Degree of Arts or the Science program. And that's part of making sure that the credits that you're taking are highly transferable and will likely go with you to whatever college or university you choose to go to next.
So if you're a junior in the program, it's very similar to the senior, except that you're in the program for 2 years. And then at the end of that second year, you've done your coursework. So that way you can complete all the degree requirements. So you can receive that Associate's in Arts degree or Associate's in Science degree. And right now we have 33 seniors on their way to earn that degree this year. Just so you know, summer courses may be required between the junior and senior year. We've had a few students who are interested in taking extra classes or maybe making up some work. And so they do that in the summer between their junior and senior year. And like the seniors, the academic advisor really works with the students to help select classes that help their college plan, their transfer plans, and meets all the graduation requirements.
So in order to qualify for the full-time dual credit program, you need to either currently be a sophomore or a junior in high school. And you need to be enrolled as a U46 student throughout the application year. So this entire year and then the entire time that you're in the program. So, you know, if you move to a different school next semester, you would not be eligible for the dual credit program anymore. We strongly recommend that you have at least an unweighted 3.0 GPA and that you maintain that 3.0 unweighted GPA throughout your entire application year. And then you have to demonstrate college readiness in reading, English, and math. So you need to have qualifying test scores on either the ECC placement test, your SAT, or your PSAT. And lastly, we have everyone submit an agreement that they understand what it means to be a dual credit student through U46.
You want to take this, Ms. Charche?
Sure. Really your expectations as a dual credit student is that you're very responsible for your own learning. It's a lot less of teachers telling you and reminding you about, you know, homework or tests or quizzes. A lot more of you understanding that you need to do work in between your classes and that you have homework coming up and that you have a quiz coming up, and maybe you need to take advantage of tutoring because you're not sure about the material being covered in class. You're really responsible for understanding the differences between each of your courses and their own policies. And then one thing we always talk about is that you really have to self-monitor, say, you know, am I struggling in this class? Is it time that I go talk to my instructor? Maybe I go to office hours. Maybe I take the time and go over to tutoring, and that you really advocate and you take advantage of those. You know, you say, hey, Ms. Charche, I am struggling in this class. What do I do next? Or how do I approach my teacher? And really, it's a lot of organization. It's a lot of time management. You have to understand that attendance in a lot of your classes still matters. So although you might only have one class on Thursday, you still are expected to attend that class. And then similar to how U46 uses Canvas for their online learning system, ECC uses D2L. It's very similar. And then you're also going to be issued an ECC email, which you are expected to check and monitor and use regularly.
So as we continue to talk about that student expectations, you are a full-time dual credit student, and so you're considered an ECC college student. So parents and students, it's different. It's different from high school. So in high school, your parents really helped you or may have helped you be responsible for all of your classes and can talk to your teachers. But really when you transition as a full-time dual credit student and as that college student, it is the student's responsibility. It becomes a student focused. So all the advising is done with the student. All the communication is done with the student. As a parent, you don't have access to your student's grades. You have to actually work with your student to see their grades. And if there's any talking to professors, it all has to go through the student. Professors they work with college students. Your student is a college student, so they're going to work with your student, not with the family. And so that's something different that as a family you need to think about.
So we want to support our students while they're in this program. So students meet with me every Friday throughout their time in the dual credit program. I host weekly office hours at ECC so they can stop in if they need anything during that time. And then I set up meetings with students as needed in between Fridays and office hours. So lots of time for them to find some additional support there. ECC also offers Spartan Alerts, and what that is an early alert system that instructors may utilize to kind of put a warning out and say, hey, the student is struggling in my class. Their academic advisor at ECC will then set up a meeting with the student. I reach out to the student and we see what we need to do in order to get that student back on track in that course. ECC also offers tutoring in all of their classes, and they have very robust tutoring in their writing. So students can get feedback within, I believe, 24 to 48 hours. There's a math lab that they can go into, and then of course, one-on-one tutoring. And then ECC has a dual credit student readiness coordinator, who's kind of my counterpart on the ECC side, and will also help students throughout the process.
So some other considerations that as a family you need to obviously consider. The good news is that School District U46 pays all ECC fees and tuition during the school year, not in summer, but during the school year. Students and families are responsible only for the U46 registration fees. And for this year and next year, those are waived. So there are no fees. There is a responsibility for the student and family for purchasing books and meals at ECC. We do offer a voucher for books, and sometimes that covers the entire book purchase costs, and sometimes you might have to add a little additional. And once again, students are required to attend Friday meetings with the U46 lead counselor every semester that they're enrolled in the program.
Just some other things to remember. So dual credit classes are weighted within the student's high school GPA. So if you are looking at, maybe you've already taken AP classes, they are weighted the same way that AP classes are. Students and families are responsible for transportation to and from ECC for classes. So we know this can be difficult. I really always recommend using the space at ECC. So, maybe you have a class at 9 a.m., but your ride can get you there at 8. That's an hour beforehand to maybe do some homework or go to the fitness center, go to your class, and then you can, do homework, go to the library. There's lots of lounges. You see students studying all the time in the lounges or doing homework or having study groups in those spaces. And then students and families are also responsible for transportation to their home high school for any extracurricular sports or clubs or activities. So I know we have a lot of students currently who are in, IHSA sports. They are getting themselves back to their high schools for any of those practices or games or meets.
So we've done this for a few years now, and so there's some frequently asked questions that students and families had, and so we're going to answer them right here and now. May still have more, and so again, we invite you to put those in the Q&A. We're not allowing any hand raising, so if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A. So one of the questions that we get frequently is how many students do we take in the U46 full-time dual credit enrollment? So there's a total of 50 rising juniors that are accepted into the full-time program for the next school year. And how is that separated? It's 10 students from each high school. So 50 is our limit for juniors. And then if you are a junior thinking about doing this as a senior, we take 25 rising seniors into our full-time dual credit program for next year. And that is about 5 students from each comprehensive high school. And then the next most commonly asked question we get is, what if there are more applicants to the full-time program than spots available? Last year, we did have more applicants than spots available. And so we put students on the waiting list. Our agreement is only for 50 junior level students and 25 senior level students. So we do have a maximum. And so we put students on a waiting list. And how do we determine which students are in or not? It's grade point and test scores, and depending on a number of approved students, it's a lottery with a wait list. Last year, just due to different circumstances, both of our students on the waiting list were eventually enrolled in the program, just so you're aware.
So if your student is currently in dual language or one of our academies, they would have to decide to leave either of those programs in order to be a full-time dual credit student. Like we've said before, students cannot take classes at their high school while they're in the full-time dual credit program. So it is a choice that they would have to make and be willing to either leave that academy or the dual language program. Dual credit students can still earn the seal of biliteracy though. Excuse me. And we work with the coordinator who does the seal of biliteracy in order to make sure that students can complete the testing in order to receive that. And then as far as transferring, we again work to make sure that you're taking courses that are highly transferable, meaning that they are likely to transfer to other colleges or universities, not just in Illinois, but outside of Illinois as well. Transferology.com is a great resource. And it is often one that is given to you by many different colleges and universities. I have a lot of students who have been using it to see, where their classes will transfer to who are currently in the program. So, they've already completed a year of classes. They're looking up, where do all my ECC credits transfer to?
Another common question is, can I still play high school sports? And the answer is yes, you can. You are able to participate on your high school sports teams. You have to maintain IHSA eligibility. So that what that means is that every week, students who are involved in sports have to talk with their professors and get a a sheet form filled out, completed, saying that they're passing their classes, because you still have to maintain that eligibility to play high school sports. As a student involved in sports, you're responsible to communicate with your coach and make sure that you can get yourself to all your practices and games. And then another common question we get is about band or music choir. So students can participate in activities that occur after school. So if there's any band opportunities after school or music opportunities after school, they can participate, but they cannot participate in band during the school day. Again, they're not in their home high school and they don't take classes at their high school. And we always get like 4 times, I know you've heard it a lot in this presentation, but yes, all dual credit classes are weighted the same as AP classes.
Ms. Chapman, I'm going to let you go for this.
All right, thank you. So we also get questions from families about what's an Associates of Arts or Associates of Science degree. So there are 2 different degrees. They're considered 2-year degrees. So if you get an Associates of Arts degree, if you're a 2-year student, you're going to work with your ECC advisor and make sure that you complete the requirements for this course. It's a nice transfer degree if you're considering getting a Bachelor of Arts degree at a 4-year college or university. An Associates of Science degree has similar requirements to the Associates of Arts degree, except that there's a little bit or more concentration in what you think, the science, technology, engineering, or math. And so if you're interested in science or trying to get that Bachelor of Science degree at a college or university, this might be a better degree for you. And as a student in dual credit, we really suggest that you take those 15 credits, especially if you're a 2-year student, so you're on your way to get that associate's degree. And then if you go on ECC's website, you can see there's more information about those 2 degrees.
So now I'm sure you're all interested in how you apply for the program. So we want you to look at your options carefully. It is a big decision that we want families to talk about together. It's a big shift. You're not in a normal high school. You're not in the regular high school day. We understand that people are excited to get college credit early, but there are a lot of other factors that go into that, and making sure that that's a decision you really want to make and that you'll be happy not being in your high school every day, but being at ECC every day. So make sure you're talking this over as a family. You can email postsecondary.success@u46.org with any questions. That email is also posted on our website. So don't feel like you have to scurry to write it down. But if you go to our website, you can find that email address. And then importantly, if you are interested in the full-time dual credit program, there's an interest survey that is currently on our website. You have to fill that survey out. It's very short. It won't take you more than 2 minutes. But we do not know you're interested and an applicant for the program if your name is not submitted through that survey. So please make sure if this is something that you're very interested in, that you fill out that survey.
So if you complete that survey, your next step is to complete the ECC application. So finish the survey, you can go back to our website, u46.org, dual credits, very easy to find. You'll see the, not only will you see the parents guide, but you'll also see the application guide. And that application guide will help you step by step to complete all the instructions and all the steps you need to do for the ECC application and testing.
So if you are someone who has SAT scores that meet the minimum qualification or PSAT scores, which for reference, and this is all in the guide, but for math is a 530. And for the reading writing, it is a 480. Okay, so again, that's math 530, reading writing, that's 480. And that is for your PSAT or your SAT. So I know a lot of students took the PSAT a week ago. I know some students already have access to their scores, I believe. You can send those in a PDF format, again, to that post-secondary success at u46.org. If you are someone who maybe doesn't reach those scores already, that's okay. You can take an ECC placement test. They are for reading, writing, and math. And there's information within that ECC application guide as to how to take those. Those are available both at ECC as well as remotely.
Very importantly, there are deadlines that you must adhere to for this program. So our priority deadline is January 31st. Final deadline, and this is an absolute deadline, is February 15th. And what does a deadline mean? A deadline means that your ECC application is completed and submitted, and all of your testing requirements have been met prior or on that date. So if you need to take a placement test at ECC, you should be doing this in December and January. So everything is completed, so you've met the deadlines. We let all families know decisions by March 4th. Those dates are set by ECC. There's a lot of other information that we need to make sure that our full-time dual credit students get. And so they need to know by March 4th, because right away they go into academic advising for the next year.
So again, to recap, you're going to complete the interest form. I just sent the link for our website in the chat. So if you click on the website, you'll see interest form right at the top. It's big and bold, and you can just click right on there. That's that interest form. Again, that should only take you maybe 2 minutes. And then you're going to complete the ECC application. You can find the instructions for completing that application on that same website. You're also going to complete testing requirements. Again, that's on the same website as well. And then meeting all those deadlines. So like Ms. Chapman said, our priority is January 31st. Our final absolute, we need to have your scores, we need to have your application, all pieces that are required. That needs to be in by February 15th. And we will let applicants know by March 4th. Again, this is open to all sophomores and juniors who meet those qualifying.
So we do get asked this: what if I do not receive a spot in the program? So we always tell our students to make sure you have a conversation with your high school counselor about other advanced courses or advanced academic options that you can have. You can take AP courses. And then the nice thing is 2 years ago, we started adding dual credit courses in our high school. You can take those dual credit courses if you're a rising senior in English, Spanish, and math. You can take them as a rising junior. If you're a dual language Spanish student, you can take some dual credit. And also we're adding a CNA option. So if you're interested in getting your certified nursing assistant, you can do that through dual credit at 3 of our high schools. So even if you don't, even if this might not be for you, but you still want that college experience, consider doing a dual credit English course as a senior. That is a great way to be exposed to that college curriculum and prepare yourself for what's next. So just so you know, we're going to stop the PowerPoint in just a minute and start answering all those questions and answers. We're going to do that live during the webinar. So that way, if you hear something and you want some more information, make sure you put that in that Q&A. We're going to put this PowerPoint, the recording, all the guides are already on our website, but the recording and the PowerPoint won't be up until Friday, October 29th. And again, there's our web email address if you have any other questions that we didn't address this evening, or if you have other questions, email postsecondarysuccess@u46.org, or you can email your home high school counselor. They can also provide you with that information. And I'm just going to remind you, I see that some participants are raising their hands. We're not answering questions with raised hands. If you have a question, please do that within the Q&A. All right.
Okay, so we're just going to start answering questions. So the first question I see is about a college schedule where they might have classes a couple times a week. So that is true. You're following a traditional college schedule. So you're not doing the 7:45 to 2:55 schedule. You know, it might vary day by day. Your Monday might not start till 11, and you might be done at 2. And you might have a different schedule on Monday than you have on Tuesday. I'm just going to go ahead and answer the next one too. ECC tutoring is already included as part of being an ECC student. So that is covered. And if you meant tuition, tuition's also covered.
Right. The next question is, are students able to join band if ECC has a band? ECC does have music. I will say, Mr. O'Shea, none of our students are in ECC music right now. It just doesn't work with their schedules.
How much do textbooks cost on average? That amount can vary greatly depending on the classes that you are taking. So we have some students who maybe only spend $150 a semester. We have some students that might be spending $700 some semesters. So it really very much depends on the classes that you are in for that given semester.
The next question says, how can I join? And I'm guessing that you're asking, how do I apply for the dual credit program? And the answer is, you complete that interest survey, you complete the ECC application, you meet all the GPA and testing guidelines, and then we let you know by March whether or not you're in the program.
So CNA, I would say if you are interested in CNA, to go ahead and take the class that is offered at your high school for the CNA program. That's really the best way to go about doing that. So you can talk to your counselor about that when you have your course selection meeting, either November or December.
Yeah, so to just follow up on that CNA class, there's a section of the ECC course catalog, which is called the Applied Science. Students in the dual credit program cannot, not take courses within that section. You have to take courses that fulfill the Associate of Arts or Associates of Science degrees. So if you're interested in CNA, you should stay at your high school.
How many applicants do we get, and can students opt for online classes? So the applicants really varies depending on the year. It's really a matter of who follows through and does all the qualifications regarding getting your application in, having the testing requirements. And so like Ms. Chapman said, we did have a wait list last year. We were able to get those students into the program for a couple different reasons, but we do typically have more qualified students than our spots within the program. Students, right now there's a lot of courses that ECC offered online, but they are moving back to having in-person classes. So students for next year should really expect to be taking classes on the ECC campus for the vast majority of their classes.
The next question is if a senior joins a program, can they continue on at ECC to read the associate's degree? And the answer is yes. Of our one-year students stay at ECC after that first year and finish up their associate's degree.
If a sophomore wants to apply only for senior year, would they still be able to apply next year? Absolutely. So when they're junior next year, we'll do this same thing around the same time next year, and we would absolutely encourage them to apply during that time.
So the next question is, so if you're in the dual credit program, you're not going to your high school? Correct. If you're in the dual credit program, you are not going to your high school every day and starting class at 7:40. Instead, all of your classes are at ECC during the school day.
So quick recap on the timeline for application. You can really start that now. That survey or initial interest form is currently open and live on our website. Again, our priority is that you have everything done by January 31st, meeting your application as well as your testing. The absolute final day to turn anything in is February 15th. And then we will have decisions out to you by March 4th.
The next question is a good one. What's the difference between ECC classes that are taken in dual credit and regular AP classes at high school? So both classes the dual credit classes are the college classes, and AP classes are also college level courses. The difference is dual credit. If you earn a C or better on your in your class, you're going to get an Elgin Community College transcript, and you can take that transcript and take that credit and transfer it to any other college in most of the country. So if I take English 101 or English 102, I get a C or better, I have those credits that I can transfer to my next college and university. For AP classes, you take the entire class, and then in May, you take the AP test. You need to earn 3, 4, or 5 on the AP test for that subject area. And then depending on the college or university will depend on the type of credit you receive. So when you get a 3 in the state of Illinois, you earn some type of credit. Usually when you get a 4 or a 5 on that AP test, you're going to earn more specific credit within that course subject area.
Ms. Chapman, were we able to get our translation to work?
We were not able to get our translation to work, and we apologize. Our translator, we had good intentions, and so we apologize. On Tuesday, we will have our interpreter, and so we will be able to answer all questions in Spanish.
Did students receive their PSAT scores?
You should receive your PSAT scores from the October 13th test sometime in mid-November. You'll get that well within our deadline.
Full-time dual credit students. So most of your classes will occur between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. That is generally when the dual credit office tries to schedule your classes. If there is a potential, maybe a class you're taking is not offered during that time, or there's a conflict with other classes that you're taking, they will reach out to you and make sure that whatever time they find a class for you, if it's outside of that 8 to 3 window, that's okay for you. So I guess an important point in this too is that the dual credit office is scheduling your classes for you. So although you pick out your classes and which ones you want to take, the dual credit office schedules those and puts you in the classes throughout the week that are in between that 8 and 3 p.m.
Ms. Charshay, I'm going to let you answer the next one.
Okay, so you're required to go to meetings on Friday. For the most part, that's every Friday. We talk about, so for your first semester, you would take College 101, which is a lot about time management and staying on track and resources at ECC, and making sure you're setting goals for the future and taking the steps you need to get there. And then after that, we'll talk about college applications, financial aid. We'll do career panels so you can hear from people in different careers that you might be interested in. Lots of different topics throughout your time. But yes, you can expect to see me throughout your time in dual credit.
So the next 2 questions ask if there's a part-time option. There is not a part-time option at ECC. Instead, you would be a full-time student, so you have to have all your classes at ECC. If you want some part-time, that's where you would take them in your high school and take a dual credit course there.
Is there a scenario where a junior takes classes at ECC and then decides to return to their home high school for their senior year? That has happened. We ask that your commitment when you sign up is for 2 years. If you're going into your junior year, the intention is that you are planning to stay there for 2 years. It should not be in your initial plan that you're planning to go back to the high school. Students go back to the high school for multiple different reasons. but your intention should be that you are planning to stay at ECC for those 2 years. The survey is on our website. So again, if you just put U46 dual credit, you'll get to our website and the survey is right at the top.
All right, our next couple questions have to do with the timeline again. So you will find out whether or not you're accepted on or before March 4th. The priority application deadline is January 31st, and the final application deadline, again, application deadline means interest survey, ECC application, and all test requirements met by February 15th. And this PowerPoint will be shared out. Absolutely. It will be posted on their website at www.u-46.org/dual credit.
AP scores, that's actually a really great question. So if you are currently or have already taken an AP test and have a qualifying score, so a 3 or better, we take a look at those after you've been a part of the program and that the summer before you start. We send those scores over to ECC and they will make any course adjustments based on that. So if you took AP English language and you scored high enough, maybe you can get put in a higher English level, but we do take those into consideration.
The next question is about PSAT scores. Can you repeat it? Unfortunately, there's not an option to take another PSAT. There was an October 13th option, and after that, we don't offer the PSAT again. We will offer the SAT this spring, but that's well after the deadlines. So the scores, as we mentioned in the PowerPoint, if you have the PSAT scores, you need to download them and submit them as a PDF to that post-secondary success at u-46.org web email address. And then I'll answer the next one. So someone is saying that the interest survey wasn't available, that they need permission. After we're completed, we will double check the permissions, but it is open. We already this morning had about 14 students that completed it. So we'll have to double check as to why you're not having access. I would suggest that you have your student take the survey through their U46 email.
If you are in the full-time program for the 2-year program, meaning you are starting as a junior, you would be graduating with your associate's degree at the same time you'd be graduating from high school. So while all your peers in your high school are graduating high school, you are also there graduating high school and walking the stage with, Bartlett or Elgin or Streamwood. But you would also be able or be a part of the graduation for ECC and getting your associate's degree. Most of the time, those are on 2 different weekends.
So there is no application fee for Elgin Community College. And then the next question is, if you're taking the ECC placement test, how do you study for it? Is it different from the SAT or PSAT? The answer is yes, it is different from the PSAT and SAT. And on our website, we have the application and testing guide. And within that guide, there are websites that you can go to help prepare for those placement tests.
There's a question about taking Spanish. So we definitely have students that are in a Spanish course currently at ECC. We do often, if you get to that point where you've been accepted into the program, would recommend that you take the foreign language placement exam that ECC offers. It's free. That way we can make sure that you're getting placed into the correct Spanish course.
All right.
On this interest form, once the presentation is open or over, that you probably need to have your U46 email address so your student can fill that out with their U46 email.
So there's a question about, can U46 who did not get in the program take ECC classes? You can. I would also suggest that if you don't get in the program, to really consider that part-time in high school dual credit program where you can take as a rising senior English 101, 102, a lot of your math courses, some Spanish courses, and you can take them in your high school, again, tuition free, and then get that college credit.
Will let classes be in person or online next year? We expect that most classes will be back to in person for next school year. We know that there might be a possibility of having a class online, but we would expect for most of our students to be back in person for next school year.
The next question says, do these courses count for prerequisites? And I'm gonna think that you're asking are like English 101 and 102, do those count for the prerequisites for the next courses within the English pathways or science courses? And the answer is yes. If you go to that transferology.com website that we mentioned, you can look and see that almost all of the ECC courses transfer to our other colleges and universities around the country, and they do count as prerequisites.
So you would have to show up at ECC in person and you would get a college schedule. You'd be like any other ECC college student. I think there was a question about if you're in classes with other non-dual credit students, and you are, so you could have a range of students in classes with you. They do have adult learners, so you might have students that are significantly older in your classes as well.
So there's another question about dual credit and AP. Like I said before, dual credit classes, you really need a C or better in the class to have that college credit that's transferable. AP, you have to take the AP test and get a 3, 4, or 5 on the test. And then depending on your college or university will depend on what type of credit that you get.
So there's a great question from someone who took the math placement last year. So they had already been through some of the process. So your ECC email should still be valid, as well as your account, and you should be able to go back in and retake that math placement if you would like to. The same thing would be true for the reading and writing.
There is another question about CNA. And again, CNA is not at all a part of the full-time dual credit program. If you're interested in CNA, you should stay at your home high school.
So we really encourage you to look at the application and testing guide that is posted on our website. So if you're looking for PSAT or SAT scores, again, for reading and writing, that's a 480, a math is a 530. The scores are a little different for the ECC placement test, but that is in, those are all listed in our testing guide. We will post a PowerPoint in Spanish. Again, we're really sorry that the translation services didn't work today. We will have every intention of fixing that for our Tuesday presentation, and then we can post that presentation in Spanish as well. And you do not need the ACT in order to be a part of the program.
So we already said for the PSAT scores, you're going to receive those from October 13th, sometime in mid-November. So you'll have access to your scores then.
Again, we ask that you make the commitment to be in the program for either, the full 1 year if you're going to be a senior, or full 2 years if you are going to be a junior. The idea is that you are committed to that program and completing the entire duration of it. We know students can go back to high school for different reasons, but that is done with a lot of conversation and between the student, myself, ECC, families. It's not just I want to go back and I'm heading back.
Right. So we would say for the person who asked the question, if you don't know, if you have concerns, then we would suggest that you wait. So a question next is, if all applicants meet the minimum requirements, what do we do? The answer is lottery. As long as you have that GPA, you meet the GPA and testing scores, you've completed all of the requirements, so you've done all that work, then they're chosen by lottery.
If you are at South Elgin or any school for their academy, and then you're in the dual credit program, the school that you're currently going to is still going to be your school for extracurriculars sports, band, anything else, clubs that you might be involved in.
You want to answer the 2 online questions?
Yeah, so again, we are expecting that most classes will be offered in person for next year. I would expect that many of our students will be on campus and in person. And this honestly is the best learning environment for our students to, be on campus, be in front of a get to use lab equipment if you're in science classes. Then you're on campus to use all the other services as well. So fitness center, tutoring, anything else that's offered at the time.
So there's a question about the part-time program. So if you decide to take English 101 or 102 in high school, every day you would have it 7th period, let's say it's 7th period. So you would go to 7th period and you would have your English 101 class. Would be that you would be considered for that class only a college student. And so your teacher is using D2L, they're following the ECC syllabus and curriculum, and you also follow the grading timelines for Elgin Community College.
So as far as U46 Chromebooks, you do get to keep your U46 Chromebooks. There's a lot of students who choose to take this as a time to purchase their own laptops, so you can do that as well. ECC also has laptops that you can check out from their library that sometimes students do because they need greater access to different programs on their computer. So if a student moves, and what we mean is if they moved out of our district, or you decide to be homeschooled for next semester, then you would not be eligible for the program anymore. You need to be a U46 student. How long are the classes? So those will vary. Some of them are 50 minutes, some of them are an hour and a half. Sometimes you have a class or a lab that's 2.5 hours. So that can very much vary depending on the class. Credits do transfer to UIC and University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Again, we always direct you to transferology.com to look at specifics for those. You can also reach out to the admissions office at either of those schools. Textbooks, we offer a $250 book voucher per semester for textbooks. So like we said, for some students that covers all their books. For some students that covers a portion of their books. We also, students are not forced to buy their books from the ECC bookstore. There's definitely other resources where you can get books for probably a cheaper cost. I would also recommend, if you know anyone who's in the program now, be great to reach out to them as well to see about if you can use any of their books. Many of our students take similar, if not the same classes, and you can, use those books or share those.
So there's a question that we're having trouble deciphering, talking about hours. So when we talk about a credit hour, a college course, each college course is assigned a different credit hour. So if you take English 101, it's 3 credit hours. That means you're going to be in class 3 hours a week. And then the expectations is that you would do 3 hours of work outside of that. Some of our science and math classes are 4 or 5 credit hours. Again, so that means that you're spending 4 to 5 hours a week in that class.
So students will pick classes from the program for the Associates of Arts or the Associates of Science. So it's not exactly every class offered at ECC. If you look on their website under those 2 programs, you'll see what classes students generally take. The advisor at ECC who works with dual credit students will also make sure that students are taking those classes that work towards completion of either of those programs. We do that for 2 reasons. 1, we want you to be able to finish your associates, but 2, those are highly transferable classes, again, meaning that they can likely be used at other post-secondary institutions. You can reach out to your school counselor if you need to find your GPA.
So we have a question again about students dropping out of the program, and we're going to reiterate again, the when you apply, the expectation is that you are going to stay in the program the entire time. Either if you're a rising sophomore, you would stay for both your junior and senior year, or if you're a rising junior, you would stay for your entire senior year. There are situations that you may return, but that is not the norm. Students really, when they are in this program, they can commit to the entire program. If you have any hesitation, oh, I don't know, then I would say that this program is not for you. It takes someone who's committed to do the program. And so if you like all things about high school and you like going every day and going to 8 different classes and seeing your friends at lunch, then you should stay in high school and continue that. If you want something, do you want that college experience, then maybe not seeing everyone every day, completely different, not having every class every day, then full-time might be for you. So there's another question about if there's a lot of applicants. Again, as long as that you're an applicant that meets all the requirements, right? You have the application in, you've completed the survey, you've completed all the testing and fulfilled those requirements, then you're put into a lottery. I was just going to say, and we don't look for, it was asking if you have better test scores and better grades, are you in front of everyone else? And the answer is no, it's a simple lottery.
Does every dual credit student take the same class if they're in the Associates of Arts or Associates of Science? The answer is no. You will see similar classes because we're taking classes that work towards our U46 high school graduation requirements, but they are not all necessarily taking the same courses.
All right, so graduation. So let's say that you're in the academy at South Elgin and then you go into dual credit. When you graduate high school, the end of your senior year, you would graduate with your class in South Elgin. So if you start at Streamwood and then you enter the dual credit program, you would graduate with your friends at Streamwood. And then one more time, we're going to look at the interest survey. Again, if you're having trouble getting in, have your student. This is a good practice for students taking care of going in their own email address and taking care of business, and they should do the survey from their U46 email address, but we'll fix that at the end of this webinar.
If a student is in the academy or currently in academy, can they do the program? Again, they would have to choose to leave their academy at their high school in order to be in the dual credit, full-time dual credit program. There are options if students aren't ready to leave their high school, if they want to stay in the academy, they should talk to their high school counselor about what dual credit options are offered at their high school that they might be able to take as a part of their normal school day.
All right, are clubs allowed? So yes, we apologize that we focused on band and sports, but yes, if you're in student government or you're in all sorts of clubs, anything that's after school, outside of school hours, you can be a part of as long during a dual credit, being a full-time dual credit student. So there's a very unique question, right? So you're a student and you have lots of credits and you're going to be a junior next year. Can you be a part of the program? You really need to, I apologize. You really need to be a rising sophomore. So next year, the student is a current freshman. They can't apply. They need to be a cohort sophomore. I don't know if I'm explaining this right.
So your second year in high school.
Thank you.
You need to be in your second year of high school right now or your third year of high school right now. All of our, okay, so there's a question about when students are applying to colleges, are they considered transfer students or first year college students? All of our students are considered first year college students. And that's really important and also a very confusing point, but they're all considered first year college students. Many college websites now are stating that right by their application. If you are a dual enrollment student, dual credit student, you are still considered a first year college student.
So the next question is, if my student wants to be an architect, what's associates are best? So we really try to not talk specific But if architecture or is really engineering, so we would consider or have your student talk to the advisor at ECC to figure out what meets their needs, and then they would take those courses for either Associates of Arts or Associates of Science. And so just so you know, the opposite is true. Not only can you participate in clubs and activities at your high school, you can also participate in clubs and activities at ECC. The only thing that you are not allowed to participate at ECC are sports, because you're still considered a high school student. But you can participate in clubs and extracurriculars. We have one of our students last year that was part of the student executive board of ECC. And so a lot of our students are very involved at ECC or at their home high school.
So again, students are considered first-year college students or freshmen, regardless of if they're coming or once they're graduating from our high school, they're still considered a first-year college student. So regardless if they're a one-year program or two-year program, do we still, I'm kind of just going to roll through questions, but if you need the placement test, if you meet the PSAT requirements, no, you don't, but please send us a PDF of your PSAT score to that post-secondary success at u46.org. It's really important that you do that so that we make sure that we have accurate records for you. The associate's degree you get must be compatible with the university you want to continue your career. We don't expect any student to coming into the program to know exactly where they want to go after high school already. The credits that you're earning as a part of that associate's degree will likely transfer to most colleges and universities. Again, that's going to be college and university specific, but overwhelmingly colleges and universities will take those credits. Like Ms. Chapman said earlier, they may count a little differently depending on the school you're choosing to go to. But you can check out that Transferology website to get a little bit more information. And I also would recommend, if you are looking into colleges and universities now and you're going on tours or you're going to university panels, those are great questions for admissions officers as well. And that's a good way to kind of find out how that school specifically looks at the dual credit courses.
So there's a question about whether or not this program is considered more or less rigorous than honors or AP track in the high schools. So dual credit courses are college level courses. You do receive, all students in the program receive weighted credit for this. If you're wondering exactly how a selective college or university perceives the program, as Ms. Charchet has stated a couple times, absolutely reach out to those admission counselors. They are there to answer your questions. Really want some specific questions about your student and their situation and one of the more selective schools. We will let you know that our students who are in the program, their credits transfer to colleges and universities. Transferology is a really great resource at transferology.com. So you can look up college courses and see which colleges and universities will accept that. And then another question about if you're moved, but you're still in U46, are you still eligible? So the answer is yes. As long as you live within the district and are enrolled in a U46 high school, you are still eligible for the program. Again, if you are homeschooled or if you move out of district, you are not eligible. And then that book voucher, another question about that, again, it's $250 per semester. The next question is about associates of degrees for arts or science are the only ones offered, and the answer is yes. So if you're a rising junior and you're in the 2-year program, it's only associates of arts or associates of science.
So there's a question, if my child wants to attend a 4-year university, does enrolling in this program reduce the amount of classes they will need to take at a university such as UIC? So yes. To get an associate's degree, it's typically 120 credit hours. Our students who are in the 2-year program complete at a minimum 60 credit hours. So essentially you're halfway done. Again, it will depend on your university, exactly what credits they take. But will reduce the number of classes that that student has to take at that four-year college or university.
So there's a question about the PSAT scores from October 13th. And once again, those should be available in mid-November. What languages can you take at ECC? I would have to look up specifically. Most of our students, if they are taking a language, take Spanish. But you're also welcome to go to the Elgin Community College website, go to their course catalog to find out exactly. Ms. Darcy, do you know?
I've only ever had students take Spanish.
Right. All right.
And then someone commented that maybe this doesn't sound like a good fit for their student. And that's, you know, I think that's why we really encourage you to come to these informational sessions. It is a choice with a student and their families. It's a big choice. It's a big change. It's a big switch. And it's not right for everyone. And we understand that. And we understand that there should be conversations and questions asked on that. So if anything comes up after this night, if you're discussing with your families, please feel free to go ahead and email us any questions that come up later on.
So a question about, what about homecoming and prom? You are absolutely still a part of your high school. And so our juniors and seniors go to homecoming and homecoming games, football games, soccer games, basketball, you name it, they go to the games, participate in the clubs, like we said. And as a senior, you do go to prom. And that's where, when you're meeting with Ms. Charche on those Friday meetings, she reminds you of upcoming events at your high school, so that way you're informed. There's a question about choir. We currently don't have any students enrolled in choir and haven't for the last couple of years. So again, look at the ECC course catalog, and if you're in the program, we'll work with you and see what we can find for you. Again, if you meet the SAT or PSAT score requirements, you do not have to take the placement exams. And then a question is, I'm interested in taking the dual credit classes in my high school. Well, this is why we're having this presentation right now. So you're going to start your course selection process for next year. So when you meet with your school counselor, you would choose one of those dual credit classes. You can look on our website in the curriculum guide. It has an explanation and information about all of our dual credit programs. And so you would talk to your counselor and sign up through your counselor. Next question is, what is the success rate of students completing this, or do they go back to high school? I would tell you that about 95% of our students are very successful. We have very few, I think, very few students that return to the high school.
There's a question about medical electives. The one class I can think of that students will take is anatomy. As a part of their program there's not a ton of medical electives because we are working within the Associates of Arts or Associates of Science degree, but students are taking definitely anatomy. What is the average amount of time spent in the ECC building during the day? That is going to vary greatly depending on who you are and the day probably. So I have one student now. I don't know that she even has any classes every day in person, but she's there in person. She uses the library. It's really nice because if I'm there and she has questions about, you know, her college essays or things like that, she just comes and finds me and we'll talk through all of that. So, you know, for you, you might be there for a couple hours for one class, or you might, you know, be there for 7 hours and decide to use that time to get a bunch of homework done, a bunch of studying done. It is, although you have a lot more free time in between your classes, it is a lot more study time than you are probably used to right now. So if you are 15 credit hours, you should be expecting to spend 30 hours on homework or studying outside of your class meeting times every week. So although you have a lot more free time, that time should still be pretty busy with your schoolwork.
So we've answered this question, but yes, you still graduate with your high school colleagues and you receive that high school diploma. And we also answered the next one. If you're interested in part-time in your high school, Your part-time dual credit class will be one of your classes during your schedule. So if English 101 is scheduled for second period on your schedule, second period, every day you would attend English 101. So the next question is very good. It says one of my PSAT scores meets it, but the other one doesn't. How does it work? So the answer is if one meets it, ECC takes that one, and then you would have to take the placement test for the other one that you don't meet the requirements for. And again, you send those scores when you get them. You download them into a PDF and send it to that post-secondary success at u-46.org website. Full-time and part-time dual credit students, what's the difference? Full-time, you are 100% at ECC. You are not at your high school during the school day to take any classes. A part-time dual credit student, some of your classes in your high school or one or more might be a dual credit class.
So students are not accepted on a first come first serve basis. We look at all students who have met the qualification by the deadline, and then it's a lottery system from there. Once we've, I guess it's just a lottery system from there. Sophomores will still have to take the SAT during their junior year. So that's something that you communicate with your instructors. If you have a class that day, it's typically on a Wednesday, you would say, I have my SATs. That is a U46 graduation requirement. And you may be using that score for your college applications.
There's a question about grade weighting. All classes are weighted, even PE.
How long is a bachelor's degree going to take after this? So if you are doing a 2-year program, you would typically look at spending another 2 years in school to finish your bachelor's. Again, it's going to be specific to what you're doing as a major and you know, what university you're going to and how they accept your credits. But theoretically, it would be 2 years.
So there's a question about the test. So like we have been saying, so the PSAT, you need that reading writing score of 480 or the math score of 530. If you don't have those scores, there are 3 tests. There's a reading, writing, and a math class. There are multiple choice tries, but for English and reading, you try twice, that's it. And for math, 5 times. But you really, before you keep trying, you really need to consult with your high school counselor to make sure that this is a good choice for you. If you're really struggling, and if you're a student who maybe is not close to getting that test score, you may want to rethink dual credit. So you don't use up all your testing tries, because they walk with you. So if you take the test this year, they stay with you for 2 years, those test scores. And then there's a question about the deadline. So that priority deadline is January 31st, and everything needs to be done for that priority deadline. That means the application and all those test scores in. The final deadline is February 15th. And again, everything must be in. If you wait to the deadline to do any of this, you are not going to be eligible for the program. Again, we've talked about textbooks and costs, but you get that $250 dollar voucher. So again, entrance criteria are, we strongly recommend an unweighted GPA of 3.0 or better. You need to complete that interest survey, the ECC college application, and then all testing requirements.
There's a question about if you apply for the full-time dual credit program and change your mind later, can you deny? You know, we strongly encourage you, and it's a long process. You have a couple months to kind of make this decision and decide. You know, we really encourage you to take this time to think about if this is the right choice for you. And, you know, if it's January 31st and you want to pull yourself out of the running, that's fine. But we ask that you do that by the deadline, so that we know that we're giving out our spots to students that are going to move forward with the program.
Some of these questions we've answered before, but we want to make sure. So there's a question about the rate of acceptance change after January So if you apply by January 31st, obviously students that are apply and get everything in, they have a greater chance of acceptance than students that apply later. The College Board says that scores are out December 7th, but our assessment people told me specifically that College Board is saying that they're going to be available mid-November. So sometime between mid-November and December 7th, you're going to have your scores.
And I just want to check in. I know we're kind of losing people. We still have 79 questions sitting here, so we're going to try and get through all of them. We really appreciate everyone's time. Feel free to sit here and listen to the answers to all the questions. We also want to be respectful of your time and know that you are at home. So if you've gotten all your answers, please feel free to go. We will be posting the entirety of our recording after our presentation next week, so you can always check back to that recording as well. I see another question. I never took the PSAT. Can I still take the placement test? Absolutely.
So the same thing, if there's an issue with your PSAT and you didn't take it, you would take the ECC placement test. So another question about academy. So whatever high school you were at for your freshman and sophomore year in academy, you're going to stay with that high school and be considered a part of that high school. We're dismissing some of these answers because we've answered them like we were saying. We still have a lot of open questions. So there was a question, will students take only 100 level courses? Do you want to answer that, Ms. Tracy?
Sure. So students, it depends. So, most of the time you're starting in 100 level courses. If you're in a 2-year program, you might move up into other classes. So you'll probably likely take a variety of levels of courses.
Right. So there's a great question. Oops, I must have dismissed it, but the question was for rising juniors, dual credit, it's only in Spanish, and the answer is yes. If you're a rising junior and you're interested in dual credit, really the only thing available to you is Spanish. Most of them are available for seniors. There's a question about a student wants to participate in choir and musicals. So again, musicals are considered after school activities. And so students have access to that. Again, you can't be in choir at your high school. And so that's a choice that your daughter would need to make. And sure that even though you want your daughter to be in the program, your daughter needs to want to be in the program too. And then there's a question about how many credits per semester. It's really anywhere between 12 and 16. Every once in a while we have someone that might take 17, but very rarely. It's usually an average about 15 per semester. And again, those courses, where are they compatible with? Again, use that transferology.com to see what courses are transferable to different universities in the state. Most of the ECC courses are transferable. There's a question about an age gap, and Jasmine, if you're out there, can you explain that a little bit more in another question? Because I don't understand what your age gap means. So if, you?
My guess is maybe like if you're in a classroom, what might the age gap of the students in the class be?
Okay.
We're gonna go with that. So some of our students are probably on the younger end at 16. And I mean, there's no cutoff for a maximum age. Many of the students are going to be, college age students. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. But you can definitely have students that are older than that. Students do get to pick electives. We have a lot of students taking in musics of the world, film. There's like a theater class I have students in right now, Spanish, lots of different options that work towards those associate's degrees.
So there's a question about how do you know if you got in the program? We will send a letter home. We also send that letter to your high school counselor, and that high school counselor will deliver it to you in class. So you'll get it 2 ways. You'll get it in person, and you will get it in the physical mail.
Our 2-year program, so we have 50 students in our 2-year dual credit program.
50 junior or rising juniors were accepted last year.
Mhm.
And we've talked about how to get in. It's a true lottery. Again, more questions about our link. We will work on our link, we promise, but we, think about using that U46 email address.
You are at ECC the whole day and not at your high school. If your PSAT scores are not high enough, you can definitely take the ECC placement exam. So with the classes alternate some days at the college, no, you are not at your high school at all, except for after school activities. You do not take any classes at your high school. You can, if you're a senior and you're taking classes at ECC and you want to complete your associate's degree the following year, would they be able to do so if our home address?
Yes, you would be able to stay at ECC, but unfortunately, you would pay out of district rates. But College of DuPage would also accept ECC courses, but that depends on your student and your family and what you want to do. The part-time program, like we said before, the name is misleading. It's really taking some dual credit classes in your high school. Yes, you can keep the Chromebook that U46 provided you, and then at the end of your senior year, you turned in with any other U46 items that you need to return.
Courses offered to seniors attending ECC. So all students are going to take English classes. Many of them are going to take their econ and government classes. They're going to take PE. And then there's some other options. You can go on the UCC website to see more of the class options available for students. No, your son will not be in only classes with other dual credit students. They are mixed in with the general population of students at ECC. For junior students who are taking their SAT in April, they will go back to their home high school for that testing.
So we've talked about music classes. There really are not. Well, there are music classes at ECC. You really need to work with your ECC advisor to see if they fit within your course. But again, we have not had students take music classes. Yes, the meeting on the 26th is a duplicate or an encore presentation. It will be another live meeting. So if you missed part of this, or if you need that Spanish translation, please join us on Tuesday, October 26th. So go ahead.
I would say again, remember to if you are interested, you are going to fill out that interest form that is on our website, then complete the ECC application and required testing. There's a dual credit application guide that is posted on our website currently. I would suggest you take a look through that, and then you can email us with any questions at that postsecondary success@u46.org email address. Your classes would be just at ECC, not at your high school. Well, due to dual students need the SAT once they transfer to a 40. So I'm assuming you're asking if that's for admissions to the program. So that depends on, well, first SAT, the school day SAT is required for graduation from our U46 high school. So they need to take it. The school that your student is applying to may or may not require the SAT. That will vary depending on the school that they are choosing to apply to. Is there a dress code at ECC? No, but you want to dress appropriately to be in classes with your professors and peers.
I don't know. So the next question is, are any participants ever continued with high school marching band? Do you know?
I don't know. And forgive us because the last year was very different. So as we're trying to remember some of these things, I don't think I have any students currently doing marching band. I have a lot of students doing sports currently.
So the next question asked if it's, is it the same number of students for each school, or do they look at student population? That's it. That's a great question. The answer is it's the same number of students for each school. So we have 50 slots for our rising juniors. That's 10 from each of our high schools. And we have 25 slots for our rising seniors. And again, that's 5 from each of our high schools. So the next question is an associate's degree different from an associate's in applied science. So an associate's in applied science, some of the courses in there might be welding, precision manufacturing, some of our trades. Computer science is also in there. So that's what an associate's in applied science is like. Again, for more information, please go to the Elgin Community College website and put in Associates of Applied Science. Associates of a Science degree is you're just taking more of your math and science courses, more of your traditional courses like biology, chemistry, physics, or math, any of your trigonometry or calculus.
Where can you apply for part-time? Those are at your high school. So when you do your course selection meetings with your counselor in the next month or two, you'll tell your counselor, I'm interested in taking a dual credit class, and they will help you kind of walk through what you need to do next. But that's kind of the start of the process, is telling your counselor that's what you want to do. Students in the full-time dual credit program do go to school typically 5 days a week. You know, the length of your day is going to vary depending on the day of the week, though.
So just to follow up on that again, no, if you're in the full-time dual credit program, you are not at your high school at all during the day. You take all of your classes at ECC. There's a question about how diverse are the accepted applicants. Our applicants represent the diversity of our schools. The classes that you take would be similar as a junior in the ECC program, like being a junior at U46, and the answer is yes, they're going to be similar. They are not going to be the same. As a junior, you get to take 6 to 7 classes. As a full-time dual credit student, usually you take 4 to 5 classes. So your classes will look a little different. But if you're interested in taking pre-calculus, they don't call it pre-calculus. You might be in college algebra, a trigonometry, or a Calc 1 or Calc 2 class.
How many classes a day would you take? It's just going to vary depending on your schedule. You could have 1, you could have 2, you could have 3. Typically, you wouldn't maybe have more than that, but they could be a variety of times. You could have a variety of free time in between. So that schedule is really going to vary. If your student does not make it in the lottery this year, there is not an option to pay for classes and still join the program. Students must go in through our application and lottery system.
At this point, we are not, because of COVID and the federal funds that we've received, we are not having students pay any fees. But in the future, if a student drops out or withdraws from a class, there is a possibility that fees will be attached to pay back the cost of tuition to U46.
So we have 25 students who are accepted into the 1-year program and 50 students who are accepted into the two-year program.
So the priority and final application deadline, priority, right? You get everything in and done. Look at those applications first. If you finish the final application deadline, then we look at yours after that. As an awareness, there, like we said, there was a waiting list. We did have students, more application than spots available this year. So we did have a lottery and we did have a waiting list. Yes, you have your U46 email that you need to check, as well as your ECC email. A lot of communications from your U46 Gmail account talk about upcoming events in the high school. If you're a rising senior, it talks about graduation and different things that you need to do, graduation practice. So you need to make sure that you check both your U46 and your ECC emails. We talked about for college credits, if you don't qualify for this program, there are AP classes in all the high schools, and there are also dual credit classes that we offer in the high school. We call those part-time, but you could take 1 or 2 classes of dual credit as a rising senior. That is a great question. So if you are a dual credit student, no, you are not going to go back to your high school during the school day. Instead, ECC does a really nice job. They bring in different colleges and universities similar to what the high school does. So you can meet with those college admissions representatives and talk with them. We also offer, Ms. Charche and I, we work with our ACE group, and we offer some college panel webinars in the evening. So you can also do it, do college visits through there. But that's a great question. Again, college visits, you would work through that through ECC. The answer is no. If you're an academy student, you have to choose if you're going to go into full-time dual credit or if you're going to stay in your academy. If you decide to go full-time dual credit, you do not get your academy high school graduation certificate. You get your regular high school diploma.
If you go to an academy that is in your home high school, and you're trying to do activities, so you're still going to go to the school that you're currently attending now. So if you are a South Elgin student right now and you decide to do the dual credit program for next year, you would still go to South Elgin for, you know, your sports or clubs, things like that. How many years of language are required? There's currently not a language requirement, although it may be something that you want to look into as far as college admissions. That might be something that you want to take into consideration. If I do this program for 2 years, but I only have to take another 2 years to get my 4-year bachelor degree. Again, you know, for the most part, yes, that doesn't mean there might not be some variation depending on which program you're getting a bachelor's degree in or which college or university you end up with. Overall, though, your 4 years will not be a full 4 years at a 4-year university. Is it recommended to have a job while in this program? I will tell you what I would tell any college freshman is to give yourself time to get used to the schedule and the amount of schoolwork that you will be doing, and then decide if having a job is the correct decision for you. We do have students that are working and are able to manage that. But we have had students who have taken on a lot of hours, and it is very hard to get all of that schoolwork done. Again, you might only be in class for 14 to 15 hours a week, but you should still expect to do 30 hours at a minimum of schoolwork during the week. So, you know, if you can, I would really recommend waiting to have a job until you've gotten through, you know, your first semester and you have a good hold on how you use the computer programs. PSAT.
Go ahead.
PSAT. So PSAT reading, writing is a 480, math is a 530. ECC placement tests work a little differently. So you need a 95 on reading, 55 on writing, and a 46. Yeah. Yes, there are computer science classes. I have a bunch of students in them currently. Students can find a job, part-time job at ECC. I think that kind of goes back to, you know, getting yourself acclimated to the environment first, and then picking up a job if you feel like that is a good decision for you, that you can handle that commitment. So placement, when and where we take the placement test and how do we sign up to take it? Again, those are offered both remotely and on campus. Honestly, most students like the experience of going on campus and doing it there. It's also kind of nice to do it on campus because if you run into any tech issues, things like that, they can problem solve those while you're there. There's instructions for all of that in our application and testing guide, which is posted on our website, so that U46 dual credit website. How many students are accepted? 50 into the 2-year program, 25 into the 1-year program.
dual credit, there are other, most of the community colleges in suburban Chicago offer dual credit courses with their high schools. Again, we're in District 509, which Elgin Community College serves, and that's why we use Elgin Community College. But we are one of the very few districts, Elgin Community College is one of the very few districts that offers the full-time dual credit program.
Your
Yes.
high school graduation requirements, yes, you still take them. So I check those, the advisor at ECC, make sure those graduation credits are worked into your plan at ECC. So you'd still take econ, government, US history, English, math, all those good things that we need to graduate from a U46 school. Where do you turn in your application? So make sure you do that survey on our website. Your scores, if you are submitting a PSAT or an SAT score, you can submit those to us at post-secondary success at u46.org. And if you're taking the placement tests at UCC, you automatically get those. If you don't meet the expectation for one part of the PSAT, could you take the placement? Yes. So if you meet, let's say for PSAT, you met the reading and writing score of a 480, but maybe you slightly missed that math, you can definitely take the math placement test. You don't have to retake both of those. We can mix and match scores. If you're looking to see which classes you can take as a junior, I highly suggest going on the website and looking at the Associates of Science or the Associates of Arts degrees and seeing what classes fall under those degree plans.
As long as you, there's a question about how do I know if we received our test scores, since it's required that you complete that interest survey, we have your email address, and periodically through the dual credit process, so in December and January and right before the application is due, we will let you know whether or not we've received everything or if we still need more information from you. So we do use the information from the interest survey to communicate with you as an applicant. And yes, the answer is if you do not get accepted, you will also be informed. There's a question about, can you play sports at your high school? Yes, you can play sports. Again, Ms. Charche has a lot of students this year that are involved in their high school sports. You cannot be involved in ECC sports. There's a question about French too. As long as French is offered as a course and it fits into your schedule at ECC, that is a possibility. There's a question about internship opportunities, and we're going to tell you that as a freshman or sophomore in college, if you're in this program or not, there really aren't any internship opportunities. I believe we had one student one time take a 1 credit course. I'm looking at you, Ms. Charche. That had some kind of opportunities. It wasn't an internship though. So there are different opportunities out there, but for freshmen and sophomores in college, that's really not a possibility. Yes, you can take classes through U46 summer school. Please know that you cannot, again, NOT, take physical education for original credit in summer school. You're required to take PE every semester that you're enrolled in high school, unless you're in that independent PE program and you qualify for a PE waiver. And oh my goodness, Ms. Charche, we have answered almost 200 questions. So we are really winding down. We have very few participants left. We really appreciate all of your time. We'll stay on for another minute in case there's any other questions that come in. But again, thank you so much. If you have any other questions or you need this in Spanish, again, please join us Tuesday. Same presentation, Tuesday, October 26th, but we will have it availability in Spanish.
You want to stop the recording?